Hello everybody. I'm very honored to do this video on a complicated topic, the pregnancy denial. But in reality, I would like to call my presentation differently. I would like to give the title, How to Perceive Unperceived Pregnancies. You'll see why I prefer that terminology. I am Oguz Omay. I'm a medical doctor, a perinatal psychiatrist in Lausanne in Switzerland. Pregnancy denial, as it is called, or unperceived pregnancies. If you're a professional or if you're just from the lay public, you might encounter this phenomenon simply in the journals. Look at what time, at any time you look at the publications of journals, and here's what you can find. This is what we try to do at one moment. Soldier who gave birth in Afghanistan returns to Britain. She was combating in Afghanistan, nobody knew she was pregnant, and she gave birth in Afghanistan. Mother of 20 gives birth on the toilet after 3 doctors missed her pregnancy and thought she was constipated instead. Another one here, this cannot be happening again. Meet the women who found out they were pregnant moments before giving birth unexpectedly, not once, but twice. And to cap it all, mom who didn't know she was pregnant delivers a rare set of twins. You might just check the internet and find similar news anywhere in the world in the language that you would like. Let me try to simplify things for you because there are different faces of this phenomenon. I think it's very useful to see 3 different presentations of the phenomenon. The situation 1, I'm just reading the slides here. The situation 1 is a woman may be pregnant, yet her pregnancy may not be perceived, neither by herself nor the people around her before the 6th, 7th, or 8th month. It's important that neither by herself nor the people around her. She may develop many ordinary signs of pregnancy within several days after the recognition. If she gets to understand that she's pregnant, if somebody notices that she's pregnant, then she becomes an ordinary pregnant woman. So this is situation number 1. This is not the situation that you will find in the journals, of course. Situation number 2 is more complicated. A woman and the people around her may identify a pregnancy only as the baby is being born. That means, for example, the woman might go to a local hospital with stomachache, thinking that she has another condition, and she might discover that she is delivering a baby. If the baby and the mother are well, this surprising situation may be rapidly forgotten by all, as if nothing special happened. I can tell you that this occurs rather often. I have seen it myself in maternity wards. Colleagues just, joking, oh, yesterday we had somebody who just came in and delivered, she didn't know she was pregnant, ha 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 ha. This happens. Situation number 3 is more tragic. A woman may give birth to a baby and may still not perceive and identify what is happening. Especially, of course, if there's nobody around her to help her move out of that state of shock, if she's at home or somewhere else alone. That baby might die from obstetrical reasons. Just remember that this is not a usual delivery, right? Or there has been no follow-up. The baby may die from obstetrical reasons or may be killed by the woman. But the woman is probably unconscious of what's happening and is not aware, I should say, of what's happening. And these may be automatic behaviors. Well, that is where it gets all complicated and very tragic, of course. So just remember these 3 situations. Probably the phenomenon that has been called pregnancy denial has been known through centuries. We even have countries who had, some disposition, legal disposition, criminal legal disposition, avoiding severe pains for women who killed their babies. This is a complicated, historical subject to research. But if we look at modern publications, we find the first publication, Milden, the publication that I have found. There are probably more gifted researchers, but Milden at 1985 identifies 9 case reports himself in the literature at that point and published 8 additional cases of total or nearly total denial. If we read UK in 1990, the initial impression of the clinicians or the professionals was that, I'm reading, the majority of difficult word, mothers are unwed, poor, have denied or concealed the pregnancy since conception. They frequently give birth alone and dispose of the baby as an abortion that occurs too late. Now, that is a little bit judgmental, and I don't know if there were any proof of evidence to think that that was the case, but that was the initial impression on these women. The first modern study, or publication I should say, is a naturalistic study by Christoph Brzezinka, who was basically a practicing obstetrician in Austria. Brzezinka, a wonderful person, collected 27 cases of women who did not know that they were pregnant until term or during the delivery. That was an important naturalistic study, and he already observed in a more careful epidemiological way that in this naturalistic 27 women, these women were healthy and otherwise normal women. And he wrote at that moment that there was no need to place the child with foster parents just because this denial had occurred, because these women were capable of taking care of the child if they got sufficient help. Jens Wessel in Berlin was an obstetrician, not from the university. He has done a study, I think that was for his MD thesis or something. He has done a one-year prospective study in the whole Berlin metropolitan area, and he has collected in a prospective way 29,462 deliveries, nearly 30,000 deliveries, and singled out 94 women who gave birth after and realized that they were pregnant after the 20th week. So partial or total denial or total unperception. And he confirmed only 62 as being denial of pregnancy. There were different situations. This study is a very solid epidemiological study that personally I wanted to replicate many times but couldn't because I'm not a researcher myself. But anyway, I think these numbers has not been put into question. And what the Berlin study tells us is that partial unawareness, or partial denial if you like, that means between 20 weeks and up to birth. A woman realizes that she's pregnant after the 20th week and before birth. It is 1 in 475. And total unperception is, these numbers are complicated. Let me simplify. So it is partial 1 in 500 and total 1 in 2,500. This is not an exotic, rare situation. This is very, very frequent. And what the Berlin study showed us, and other studies since then show us, is that any woman can present an unperceived pregnancy. Many studies confirm that 80% of these women are in a stable relationship, 50% already have a child, any age of fertility, high or ordinary socioeconomic status, not necessarily adolescent, immature, cognitively impaired, or psychotic. So, do you think that we should call this phenomenon pregnancy denial? Pregnancy denial, even in French, in my language, it sounds worse. She has done a pregnancy denial, we say in French, as if the woman had done something, whereas we don't know anything about what has happened in this phenomenon. We don't have a scientific explanation. And I shouldn't say and the opinion of a group of colleagues is that we should not call this like that. It is judgmental and it is not helpful. We should rename this phenomenon as unperceived pregnancy, which is a neutral and respectful term. Unperceived pregnancy. What is unperceived pregnancy? It is, I'm reading you the slide, it is a woman's lack of awareness of being pregnant after the 20th weeks of gestation. If you discover you're pregnant at 18th week, then that's not an unperceived pregnancy. It's just conventional. But after the 20th week, that's an unperceived pregnancy. It can be partial or total, as we said. But this unperception should be combined with the lack of awareness of the people around the woman, that woman. Partners who make love regularly might not be aware that the woman is pregnant. Family, mothers of the mother, colleagues, friends, professionals, including medical doctors who have examined these women. Another person, a passerby, even if a passerby said, "Hey, aren't you pregnant?" that would lift the non-perception. And we have, anecdotes of real cases of women who were pregnant up to term sometimes and have not been perceived as being pregnant in prison, by prison guards, they were in prison, by television workers and television audience, because you got stars who have done shows and they were pregnant. And we even, I think that's a case from Brzezinka, we even have a woman who has delivered after being several days before in a nudist camp, totally nude. Unperceived pregnancy is not a concealed pregnancy where the patient knows that she's pregnant, but she does not want to show it or say it. It is not, on the other side, it's not a psychotic patient who is unaware of her pregnancy, whereas her family or her doctors are aware that she's pregnant. This is not an unperceived pregnancy. You might call this a psychotic denial of pregnancy. Why not? In unperceived pregnancy, the non-perception is shared. How can this be? But we don't know. And this is what we should research instead of, having great theories about it. We should research this. How can this be? One characteristic of human beings is that human beings can imagine things that don't exist, like states, banks, or money, like Harari tells us. But it's very interesting to see that collectively, human beings can ignore to perceive, or can fail to perceive, things which might exist, and this even changes the human biology of the woman. Well, let me just get to the point, not lose myself in interesting discussions. What are the consequences? So if we confirm the prevalence as being 1 in 2,500 pregnancies, a total denial, diagnosis per pattern, as we should say, it is estimated that 1 in 4 of these deliveries of total denial or total unperception would be out of the medical context, at home or elsewhere. The consequences will depend on if the mother is alone or not. If the mother is not alone, then the environment helps her to realize what's happening. And it's not easy, but at least it happens in some way. We have clinical cases on this, of course. But if the mother is alone, then the non-perception is not lifted. And the patient probably goes into a dissociative state in the traumatic sense with unpredictable behavior. And the death of the newborn might be caused by the neglect or the consequence of unpredictable behavior, putting the baby in a garbage or in the deep freeze, things like that. Just to give you an idea, in France, in 2021, we had 740,000 births. That gives nearly 300 totally unperceived pregnancies discovered at birth. Nearly 1 every day. And of these pregnancies, probably 74 occur out of the medical context, at home or elsewhere. And it is estimated that 1 in 5 of these might cause or might end up by the death of the baby. 7 natural deaths, maybe, because baby falls into the toilet and things like that. And 7, baby killed, or the mother is accused of killing the baby as a consequence of her behavior. This is the reality in France. In any country, if you have just, these are the numbers, I will not read them to you, in 100,000 births, you just estimate, and we probably have 2 deaths per 100,000 births in any country. This must be checked, of course, by more systematic research. So Jens Wessel has said, there seems to be no other condition as dangerous to the mother and fetus that is being ignored across the literature as pregnancy denial. Before ending this video, I should say that, I'm talking to you from Switzerland. I don't know where you are. There are many different countries in the world: Africa, United States, Canada, Japan, China, Turkey. The legal framework changes. Some countries might severely condemn these mothers to decades of prison. Other countries may be more understanding. I had the chance to intervene in several trials. We have international colleagues who, through the Marseille Society or other organizations, try to help these mothers. In perinatal psychiatry, we have been working for decades so that mothers with depression or anxiety don't go unnoticed and don't, live sad lives without any help. I think we are kind of successful in doing that. But pregnancy denial or unperceived pregnancies, especially total and with medical legal consequences, is a territory that the whole world and the scientific community is ignoring. And these mothers are victim of a phenomenon of which we don't understand the character. And I think we cannot allow science and human society, legal, the police, and rights of women and everything. We cannot allow this to happen. There are too many tragic situations. The only way to get informed is through the journals and faits divers. How does it called in English? Dramatic things in the journal. Whereas we should have a global observatory to collect all these cases and get the necessary research. Just to end this talk, a medical phenomenon with the same frequency, 1 in 2,500, like HELP syndrome, on UpToDate, which is a medical website, you have 10,000 publications. In UpToDate, you don't even find the topic pregnancy denial, and you have only 50 to 70 publications on pregnancy denial. This is unfair for the women, for the babies that we lose, and for whole families and communities. We should work to change this. Thank you for your attention.